Hi, my name is Amanda Eveler, and I'm the Financial Literacy Caseworker here at Blueprints. I'm going to be doing a series of videos, 1 through 5. They're going to be for 5 different classes, and they're going to be the financial literacy courses that we take. It's important that you follow them from class 1 through class 5. This is going to be the video for class 1, which is building skills for financial confidence, and it's going to continue through with moving on to goal setting, budgeting, maximizing income, and then of course savings at the end. So this is video 1, as I said, for building skills for financial confidence. Okay. Okay. So before we really get started on the more financial literacy concepts themselves, I think it's important to define financial capabilities and financial competence to begin with. So basically, financial capability is the entire pathway to financial well-being in multiple different aspects of financial well-being. It's going to include the knowledge, skills, resources, and financial capabilities that are going to help you lead to that pathway and to be successful at that pathway. It's going to include your security and freedom of choice in the present and the future as well. And it also is kind of just the understanding that everything affects everything financially. So even spending $2 at a gas station, it could affect your budget and could affect you, maybe saving towards a goal in the future. Or it could be things like a major repair that needs fixed, something like that. So it's just important to understand that. When it comes to financial literacy, it's important to be honest and open-minded, to remember that finances is stressful for everyone. Even the smallest thing can ruin an entire budget for a month. So it's important to be open-minded and to remember that it's not going to be perfect every single time. It's not going to be perfect the first time you try. It's probably not going to be perfect the 12th time you try. Or it could be. It just kind of depends. So it's important to be open-minded and to understand those things moving forward with financial literacy and financial capability as a whole. So with financial capability, there are 6 pillars that are the whole concept of financial capability. So the 6 pillars are basically the pathway to being fully successful and fully done with financial well-being. So we're going to talk about the first 4, and then I will touch base on the other 2, but there will not be classes on them. So the first one is goal setting. So this is going to be to align your resources, to prioritize what matters most, the chronological order of things. For example, if you are renting a home, then buying a home might be the next step. But if you're just living with a friend and you know you need to make the next step, it might be to rent before it is to buy. So just chronologically figuring out what makes sense as well. Maximizing income. So making sure that you're getting the best out of what you make and what your financial situations are. You want your expenses and savings to be less than your total income. And we're going to talk about different ways that you can maximize your income and different ways that you can make sure you are doing that. Spending is going to be the tracking and aligning with goals and values. So this kind of goes along with maximizing your income. It's just checking your spending, make sure you're being cautious about it. You're being a smart shopper with your spending. And you're just really watching what you're doing and making sure that you're in control of your own finances and your own money. Savings is obviously money for the future. It's about how you create a savings, what you do with that savings, the best way to save, depending upon your financial situation. And it's just going to be the importance of, how you kind of identify how much you need to save. The last 2 pillars are borrowing and protecting. So I'm not a credit counselor. I cannot teach credit. I cannot help you with credit. That's unfortunately something that I'm not able to do, which also kind of is involved with protecting, but I will touch base on them. Borrowing is basically the strategic use of your credit. So making sure that you're making smart decisions with your credit, and you're working on keeping that credit score high or working to get it high. And protecting is just the adequate asset and risk protection for things. So for example, for buying a home, the borrowing is going to be probably taking out that mortgage, whereas the protecting is going to be making sure that you're protecting your assets in your home and protecting yourself while you're borrowing that money. And like I said, I do not teach those, but it is important to understand that they are part of the financial capability realm and the whole overall well-being. There's 4 important things to remember with financial capability. Failure is a good thing, and that sounds very weird to say, but failure is a good thing. It's important to be open-minded. It's important to be honest, as I will repeat multiple times, to be open-minded and honest. And the 4th one is that you keep trying. If something isn't working out for you, it's important to keep trying, but maybe to try something new. So those are just important overall to know for financial literacy and financial capability. And that's kind of how you build the confidence in yourself to move forward in financial capabilities. So assessing clients is super important to start out with, because you might think that your issue might be that you can't afford your rent because your hours were cut, or it could be that you're spending, $200 somewhere that you shouldn't be spending. And I like to give people the benefit of the doubt that you kind of know, everyone knows what's important to them and what, they think their financial needs are. But sometimes there are things that we don't think about, underlying things that we might not think about because that's not really what our focus is on. So that's like kind of the importance of assessing where people are, because the difference of where you are and where you want to be could be something small or it could be something very big. Even things as where you are now, if you rent and you want to buy a home one day, that's a very big jump and a lot of steps to take to get to that. So you may think, oh, well, my next step is buying a home, where in reality, the next step is going to be, okay, starting to save, trying to find out, can we get your credit score higher, different things like that. So there are multiple steps, but you could just be focused mainly on buying a home. The point of assessment is to kind of identify and prioritize and quantify and qualify your financial goals. So for going back to buying a house, that is a very big quantity goal. It's a lot of money to buy a house. There's a lot that goes into it. Whereas buying a car isn't as significant as buying a home. It's still significant, but it's not as significant. So it's important to kind of identify and prioritize what matters to you. Most people have more than one financial goal. So it could be something like, you want to buy a home, but you need to work on your credit score. But in order to work on your credit score, you have to pay off your debt. But when you're thinking about buying a home, it's just, oh, well, I want to buy a home. So you kind of got to think about and prioritize what matters, because if the priority for that would be to pay off your debt first and work on paying off your debt and work on fixing that credit score before you can kind of think about buying a house. There are 4 areas that are related to assessments. So that's the importance of conducting. So why it's important to even have an assessment. As I've talked about, it helps you kind of get more in tune with where you are financially and where you want to be. Identifying potential assessment tools. As you can see, there's 6 different types of assessments. I'll talk about them. I'm going to give you an example of the worst and the best, just pretty much well known across the board. Applying assessment information. So taking what you're finding out from this assessment and putting it into your life and how you can, set goals and move on. And you'll see how it kind of works from step 1 of the assessment the whole way through the process of savings and even borrowing and protecting yourself. And it's also, the 4th one is to understand not only your role in the assessment process, but my role as well, or whoever is helping you in conducting this assessment for you. So a thoughtful process, an appropriate tool is going to lead to your pathway. So your role is going to be honest, open-minded, to take the assessment, to kind of figure out where you are. My role, or whoever's helping you, our role is kind of going to be a second set of ears, a second set of eyes. We're going to help you, connect you to the things that you may need and help you along the way, but you're the one driving the car, if that makes sense. So you're going to be the one who's taking the steps that you need to put everything together to be successful at the end. So there are 6 types of assessments. They are listed in here from what's considered the best to what's considered one of the worst. There's multiple different tools that are similar. There's different traditional surveys in the one that I use, but they're pretty close knit and pretty similar across the board for each one. So a traditional survey, this is a range of qualitative and quantitative questions about where the client's current financial situation, needs, and concerns are. This is the best one because it's probably the most questions. It asks about how satisfied, dissatisfied you are. If it's something that you think about, something you consider, just a whole bunch of different things. And I think it's really helpful because it asks about things you might not be thinking about, but things that might be important to you. And it helps you maybe think more clearly about different things. The next one is a financial wheel. So this is a holistic look at the client's qualitative level of satisfaction with different areas of financial life. So it's similar to the survey, but it's not talking about the quantity of things or it's more talking about the quality of how you feel. So for example, it could say, how satisfied are you with your job? Well, you could be super satisfied and love your job, or you could hate your job, but that might necessarily be, something that you're thinking about. And it's just an overall broad thing. So, income could be one whole category on its own. Expenses could be one whole category on its own. Spending could be one whole category on its own. So, yeah, you might be satisfied with your spending because you think, you're really good at spending, but you could be unsatisfied with your expenses because your bills are high, your rent's high, whatever it may be. So it's not necessarily asking more of those concrete questions. It's just getting more of a general overall of like a bunch of different parts. The next one is discovery form. So this is a narrative response of client's financial situation, needs, and goals. I think of a discovery form as when you go to the doctor's office and they're just talking to you about your symptoms and, you have a sore throat. When did it start? Do you have this symptom as well with it? Do you have this feeling or whatever it may be? So it's basically more of open-ended questions, but it's more generally based upon that initial need that you tell us that you have. So if, this might be something that's better for what I consider like multiple or like a checkpoint for some people. So if you're working on a goal and something comes up, this might be where we kind of talk about that issue that came up. That's more where this kind of would fall into place rather than the initial assessment of trying to get you started overall. The next one is a data collection check sheet. This is basically just collecting your income, expenses, debt, bank account statements, insurance policies, your credit history, your credit score. This is just the overall general information of where you currently are financially. It doesn't necessarily talk about where you want to be. It doesn't talk about, where you used to be. It doesn't talk about how satisfied you are with things. It's just basically getting to know you, your current financial situation, how much money you make, how much you're spending, how much you owe in debt, whatever it may be. The next one is an intake form. So this is typically relating back to a doctor's office. This is like the paper that they hand you when you're there, when you fill out your name, your information, anything like that, your demographics, your age, and maybe your basic financial information. So what's your salary like? This is kind of what I consider to be like an application more than it is an assessment for you. And then the last one's a discovery conversation. So this kind of is where this links a little bit to the discovery form, but it differs. So discovery conversations are targeted questions to find out what the most pressing need and desire is of the client. So this to me, relating it back to a doctor's office, almost every single person has experienced it in some way. So it's a little bit more relatable to understand. So the discovery conversation is like when that nurse practitioner or the LPN or whoever, the initial contact is when you're back in the waiting room before the doctor comes in. And they come in and they're like, okay, so I see here that you have a sore throat. When did that start? Is it your throat? I see you have some other symptoms. Maybe, you have headaches or whatever. So you're keeping complaining about the sore throat. So that's what we're gonna, focus on. That's kind of what discovery conversation is like. It's when you're trying to figure out what exactly brought them in here, and that's the only thing you're focusing on. So that's kind of more like what a discovery conversation is. It's not necessarily sitting down, writing things down. It's just kind of talking, but it's talking more about the immediate need and situation that brought you in here. So it's important to kind of understand that, the traditional surveys, yes, they may be more lengthy, they may be more driven to multiple different things, but it also can help you underlie some questions that you might not have thought about in the past. So I'm going to share with you one of the two surveys. I'm going to show you the first one, which is the most important one and the most beneficial, and then I'm going to show you the one that is the discovery conversation, discovery forum kind of thing, and you can see the difference of why it's more concrete for one than the other. So this one is the traditional survey. So as you can see, it's how satisfied you are. There's tons of questions and lots of underlying things. So some of these things, as I said, may not be, something that someone thinks about. So for example, there's one on here that is about your child's education. So I personally don't have children, so that's not something I'm worried about right now. That's something that I'm not even financially considering. It's not anything that matters or is important to me right now. Whereas for someone else, that might be a priority for them, making sure that their kid can get a college education and they want to learn how to do that. There's things on here like the amount of money that you invest regularly. I personally don't invest, but you might. So that might be something, you want to work on, or maybe that's something that you want to do now. That's something that, a goal that you want to have is how you can invest properly and how you can make sure you're doing it, what's best for you. There's things on here like planning to take care of your family if something passes or someone passes, or there's an emergency that happens. So it's being able to understand, like, are you happy with that or not happy with that, and is that a goal that you're going to want to move forward to? So as you can see, there's tons of questions on here. There's lots of multiple questions. So some of them are like my contentment in life. This doesn't really seem very, like I'm happy, but like this is not making me happy. But you could be super satisfied with the contentment in your life, or you can be super dissatisfied just because of the fact that, you're not where you wanted to be wherever you are. So you can see there's a lot of questions. It's very underlining how you respond emotionally to money issues and the stress. That could vary each time. If you're in step 5 of 20 steps, you might not be responding as bad as you would in the very beginning. So this is something that kind of helps you think about different things that you didn't know about before, or that were on the top of your head, but thinking about it and hearing someone ask you it, it's like, oh yeah, like that is kind of something I'm worried about, or nope, never thought about it, I don't feel like it affects me at all. So then looking at the discovery questions. So what brought you in today? Big question, very general, very open-ended. What does that mean? What brought you in today? Okay, well, it could be, I'm have used my credit card every month because I'm not making enough money. Okay, well, let's get more into that. But that's not really what happens during these discoveries questions. What's your immediate need? Your immediate need in your head could be that, you need to make more money, but the immediate need could be that you're overspending every month. So it's kind of more of a generalized, let's just kind of talk about you and see where you think you are currently. What do you want to be different? Well, if you're coming in for, you're spending your credit card, what do you want to be different? You don't want to spend your credit card. So I think you can kind of see the difference in some of these questions of where, what have you already tried? What has been useful? Yes, that's important to know, but is it really helping get to that underlying issue and helping you kind of see where you need to be? Where do you want to be in 6 months from today? Well, I would hope that you would want to be financially successful. That's pretty much the goal of everyone, is to be back on track. But is that really something that matters in helping you? So hopefully you can see kind of the difference of the questions and why one is a lot better than the other. And then as you will see throughout the process of these classes, like especially for goals, which is the next class, the financial assessment tools, so the survey, going back to it, when you look at it and we look at the scores on there, that's kind of how we help identify what goals you may have. So even if, you have a 3, we kind of want you to get towards a 4 or 5, but that might not be a goal that's priority to you right now. So having those kind of scores also allows us as people helping you and yourself as well to see maybe what goals you want to work on in the future, but they're just not precedenting to you. Or maybe you can see as time goes on, as you work and successfully meet some of your goals, like how that links into what's going on and how, you can see your scores change from in one area from like a 1 to like a 3 or 4 just because of you meeting your goals. So that's everything for building skills for financial confidence. As I said, the next one is goal setting, and it'll kind of start coming off of the assessment. So you'll kind of get to see what the next step is and what the next process would be. If you have any questions or you would like to schedule for individual sessions, I can be reached by my email, or you can just send in a generalized referral on myblueprints.org. But my email is V as in Victor, ELER at myblueprints.com, or I'm sorry, .org. And then hopefully you will continue through the rest of the classes and get a better idea of overall financial pathway for success for financial well-being.